Welcome to a new update. Today we're talking about a few of my tweets which are in line with what the markets are doing currently. But if you have noticed, my tweets have changed a little bit as I'm progressing towards longer and more in-depth tweets. This video is also going to be posted on X where you can watch it. So I'm giving more background on the tweets that I've been providing earlier. And in this update, it's Tuesday. We focus on the markets for Bitcoin and we focus on what can be moving the markets overall because it's a technically massive week. And we've got a lot of events taking place. We've got a lot of volatility most likely to be expected as well. So that's why these updates are beneficial for you. Before we continue, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to this YouTube channel. Also check out my other social media channels, Twitter, which is now X, and also additionally look at our Discord group, which is a public one where you can get a 1 week trial week for our trade IDs, which we are providing multiple times a week. And I've got the course, which is a Kickstarter for you. It's more than 7 hours of content where you can get in-depth information about everything in the crypto markets to get yourself started, because I can understand that it's a very difficult market to get into, especially with all the segments and all the things that are always taking place. That's your Kickstarter, and it's on our website, which you can find in the description beneath. And additionally, you can also find our partners, which are Bitfavo and Bybit. Bitfavo, you get a €10 free if you deposit there for the first time. And also at Bybit, you're getting free money if you deposit more than $100. You can do that before the October 1st, then it's going to be erased. Now, when we're looking at the markets, there are a few important topics. The first one is the fact that we're going to have a massive week. So we're going to discuss what is actually the impressive impressive for the upcoming week. We're going to discuss the fact that we're into the longest bear market at this point, and that is not based on the length of the price action. Although, if you look at altcoins, they are in the longest bear market themselves. That's what we're going to discuss on Saturday, but now we're going to look at a tweet that I've been providing, in which we can see that the bear market is 490 plus days. And we're going to look at the price action of whether Bitcoin is currently bottoming out or not. So let's start with the week that we have, which you can find on the screen. There are two categories. First, you've got the macroeconomic events, and then you've got crypto solely or crypto events that are going to move the markets. The first macroeconomic events are starting after I've been posting this YouTube video, or actually before, as there are the first few events or data points that the markets are going to move to. So the markets are going to move based on all these things. The dollar will move, the yields will move, so gold will move, indices will move, and then Bitcoin also will be moving. And Bitcoin has an additional layer, which is the fact that the crypto markets have some events too. What are the important events for the macroeconomic or US dollar and yields? Today, it is Consumer Confidence and Job Openings Day, which is provided at 4 p.m. European time, which is prior to this actual upload. Tomorrow we're going to have ADP non-farm employment change and GDP, which is an upgrade or an update on the one that we've been getting the past month. So we're getting a renewed number for the past quarter. That's not really that massive unless you're going to have a huge change. I think the cornerstones of this entire week are consumer confidence, job openings, ADP, unemployment data, and the PMI and PCE. On Thursday, we're getting the PCE core and regular PCE data, which is a key ingredient for the FOMC, which is the Fed, to indicate whether or not they're going to continue the rate hike. So if PCE comes in higher than expected, you can expect that in the current market circumstances, the nature of the trader is to buy dollar, to buy into yields, to cover their positions into risk on assets. So then we're getting a sell-off in indices and we're getting a sell-off in Bitcoin. So those are ingredients that are important for everybody's interest, especially for crypto-focused people, as people are within the crypto markets are heavily skewed towards those instruments, because crypto usually is very volatile around those events. So on Thursday we get PCE, we get unemployment claims. not that much important unless a big change is expected again. On Friday, we've got PMI numbers again. Last week's PMI numbers actually moved the markets, in which gold bounced up, in which Bitcoin made a rally. The indices were not doing great, and the dollar and the yields were not doing great either. So if you continue the weakness, and if unemployment rate comes in higher than expected, that's when you're going to see a huge impact on the markets. And I'll cover this in the charts in a little bit, because it seems like we are going to get into the stage where the yields might be topping out, as they have been sweeping, but also given the sentiment and given the fact that the expectations are so much skewed towards higher for longer, that the current prices are already pricing in bad numbers, higher inflation, better unemployment. Those are all priced in. All ingredients for that higher for longer expectation is in the price already. So I think that if we have an outlier for this entire week, that is going to move the market substantially. And especially given that we had PMI last week, it could be a very volatile market in that way. In this tweet, we've got two scenarios. If the unemployment comes in lower, PCE comes in higher, which is the inflation coming in higher, confidence coming in higher, which is a key ingredient that the economy is acting stronger, so the Fed can continue with the rate policy. PMI comes in higher, which is also an indicator that the markets are strong. There will be a push for the dollar, and there will be a continuation of the fear to higher for longer on the interest rate policy. The other one is, of course, if unemployment comes in higher, PCE comes in lower, confidence is lower, and PMI is lower, that will be a trigger for a sell-off in risk-on assets. But it will also be a sell-off in yields and DXY, and probably a push in gold and Bitcoin, as those two are very correlated. And that would mean that the markets are going to push up for the crypto markets. And I think the key ones to watch are PCE, are the unemployment rate, and PMI. I think the other ones are not going to be a big mover of the markets at all, unless job opening is going to be a big difference, of course. Then we've got the other fact of the markets, which is we still are waiting for some crypto events. We've got the first ETF deadlines for the BlackRock ETF. It's the 2nd of September. The other ETFs are also going to have the first announcement during this week. The dates are in the weekend, so you would assume that we're going to get it on Friday. But we have been seeing some tremendous moves during the weekend, so I wouldn't be surprised to have some volatility again. And we are still waiting for the Grayscale case, which is having a deadline in approximately 4 to 5 weeks from now. And the expectations are that we're going to get it. The Grayscale case is a case where GBTC can become an ETF, or they can be transferred towards an ETF, which would also mean that the other ETFs are going to be approved relatively soon. And we do have the case of Ethereum ETF futures to be approved, most likely in October. So then you can conclude that we are in the final correction of the markets. So that's all for this week. Now, what I was tweeting is that we are into the longest bear market in history for Bitcoin. Currently, we are having a case that since November 2021, which is approximately 2 years, we are still down more than 50%. In the previous cycles, we are already closer than that, but we are still moving at approximately 70% lower than the all-time high. Most altcoins are down since May 2021. They are down by 80 to 90%. There are cycle lows. People lose their interest into altcoins. That's why we see the Bitcoin dominance acting so strong. The overall sentiment and interest in the markets have been moving away as well, which is an opportunity. Because if you look at this tweet too, BlackRock is having stakes in mining companies, and Valkyrie too. Multiple ETFs are getting there. ETF in Europe went live. Hong Kong is adopting. Oman is investing more than $1 billion into Bitcoin. So it's not that. It is actually fundamentally stronger, but it takes a lot of time before that strength on the fundamental part is going to be moved inside the markets and that the price starts to pick up. And then the conclusion comes that we are at undervaluation of the entire market. That's also why we are moving beneath those moving averages. And that's why it's still an interesting opportunity to invest. The question is, how far will we go in this entire correction? Because seasonality shows that August and September are bad months. August has been terrible. So the opportunity of the markets to actually bounce from here is expected to be significant. And it is also very likely that September is going to be relatively flat, as we know that the Ethereum ETF futures are going to be there and that we've got grayscale. So I think that this is the final part of the entire correction. Now I've mentioned a tweet here, or a chart, which is showing the fact that we're currently in a case of 490 plus days of downwards momentum, or at least the longest bear market, because that's usually correlated with the two. We've had a few more in the past, all right? We have had 2015, 2016, which was a similar length of the bear market as we had 386 days here. We've got 2018, 2019, which showed 204 days. We've got 2020, which is 37 days. But this bear market was relatively low compared to the bear market that we have witnessed here. We can also conclude, which I've been saying on multiple videos already, this bull market was massive and this one was actually quite weak. You would have assumed that the bull market would have gone higher than it was than 69k, and I think everybody got tricked by it, right? So this bull market is most likely comparable to the one that we've witnessed in 2015, 2016. I've also shared that most likely we are here in terms of the cycle, sideways action, and then we have a big expansion to the upside, which is pre-halving or which is comparable to the ETFs. So I would assume that if we go towards 50 to 60k prior to the halving, I'm not surprised. Now, what does this chart tell you? This chart says that the Bitcoin price year-on-year percentage change, negative or positive. So if we look at the current data point, which is 26k, if we go back in time for 1 year, then we are going to see that the price was 1 year was higher than it was right now. The same goes for this entire bear market. If you look at 22 November, the price at that point is lower than the price 1 year ago. That's how this is determined, and that's how long this bear market is progressing at this point. Hence why you get into the theory of the longest bear market, especially if you look at altcoins, and towards undervaluation of the actual asset at this point. All right, so that's what I wanted to discuss with this chart. That's what I wanted to discuss inside this tweet, and I hope you like it. So the upper part is the Bitcoin price. The Bitcoin price, as a conclusion, has not been rallying as much as we have been seeing in 2017. We have been seeing a tremendous bear market here with a lengthy case of 500 days plus of not having year-on-year positive data. So that is longer than this cycle, and we can also argue that the current cycle that we are facing is going to be very comparable to the one that we've witnessed in 2017, 2018. And it's very comparable in the sense that there are big new parties joining the markets. This was retail. This was VCs and a guy called SBF moving the markets. And we had some new money coming into the markets as the M2 supply has been increasing. But I think if you use the M2 as a navigator in the markets, Bitcoin should have been higher. So in that case, with the fact that institutions are jumping into the markets, we are probably going to have a very large bull market. And I think it's going to be comparable to this one, in which we just go up only, have a few corrections, and just continue to grind. So every correction between 20 to 40% is a buy opportunity. Now, finally, are we done with the correction? We are looking at the markets right now, and I think if you're looking at the markets on the higher time frames, you can see that we are into an area of support. So if you're looking at this, and we are looking at the seasonality, in August of 2015, we have had a crash in September or August 17. We had a crash in August 24th, after which we took out the lows and we started to grind back upwards. It took approximately a month, and then we started to rally, and we rallied from $200 to 500, but we got into this range here. Currently, we are also having a drop in August 14th. We've had a drop afterwards, or a consolidation. And now we are eagerly waiting to see whether the EMA, the 200-week EMA, is going to be support. And if it does, I think you can look at 38k to 45k as a potential next rally point. But this week and next week is going to be the key whether or not we're going to hold above the EMA. I think we will be testing it. And if we do hold it, that's going to be the ingredient to actually buy your assets. And it's a different topic for altcoins, which I mentioned is currently very undervalued. If you look at the lower time frames, usually when you get into a bottoming procedure is that you're going to get a sweep of the low and then we continue. So here we had one. We had a consolidation, retest of the previous block, sweep of the low, and then we start to return upwards. Here we didn't have it at all, but at least some retest took place. Here we had a grind, low taken, and then we continued to move. So every time when you see a new support, that is how you move the markets. Now coming back into display, we can see that we've got a mid-range support at 25.7, we've got a mid-range resistance at 26.3, we've got a crucial resistance at 26.8, and we've got a crucial support at 25.2, which is where all the lows or all the liquidity is, because this is where the people are going to place their stops if they are longing inside this range. So I think, as I mentioned with the other cases, if we're going to reverse the markets, it's very likely to expect that we at least see 25.7, but potentially are even going to see 25k to take out this liquidity, have a very fast move here, bounce back up, reclaim, and then we can continue to move. That is my optimal approach into these markets. That is also going to mean that we're probably going to have a delay of the ETF, and the delay of the ETF is not bad news. It is just they can't find a conclusion yet, so the markets are going to sell off, and that's providing us a weekend move towards 25k, and then we are finally getting over the correction and V-shape back up. That is the most likely case. If we're not going to get it, I'll be buying higher. I mean, if we're going to have a bounce, or at least we test upwards, and we are not going to crack 28.6 or we stall at 27.8, I think I'll be cautious still. We do have this bullish divergence in play on the 4 hour. We've had this test on the highs and took it out. So we're just chopping around. So if we are having the aggressive approach of 25.7 to be taken, and we take liquidity, reclaim it, then we can continue moving. But the same approach is here. If we have the lows at 25.2, and if that is taken with high volume, another liquidation cascade, and we drop towards 24.8, which is also where we see this low, that is where I'm going to be a buyer. Very simple price action. In the upcoming updates, I'll be looking at the higher time frames. I'll be looking at altcoins. I'll be discussing the news. But this is the update for Bitcoin. Make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel or watch my videos on X. Become a member of my platform or try the trial week. I'll see you again. Ciao, ciao.